right. So if you're like knee deep in Python for data science, you've probably run into this,
Right.
the whole question of which environment to use.
Right.
So today we're doing a deep dive into Posit and Anaconda.
Good.
And we've kind of gone through and looked at comparisons and stuff online, and
Yeah.
we really want to lay out the differences and the similarities
Absolutely.
and when you might use one over the other.
Yeah.
So you can really walk away.
You've pulled some really good resources.
Yeah.
It is fascinating how both of these platforms are really trying to solve the problem of
Right.
making Python data science workflows smoother,
Totally.
more productive.
Okay, so big picture.
Yeah.
What are they each offering?
So think of it this way.
Okay.
They're both kind of giving you these toolkits that you need for your data science projects.
Got it.
Posit, which you might remember as RStudio,
Okay.
they've really expanded their focus to fully embrace Python
Yeah,
alongside R.
makes sense.
So with tools like Posit Workbench and Connect, their aim is to really simplify everything,
Okay.
from development to like sharing your results.
Right.
Anaconda, on the other hand, gives you a comprehensive package.
Okay.
It's a distribution that comes loaded with a huge array of like the most popular data science libraries.
Okay.
Plus, it gives you its own powerful package and environment manager called Conda. So
Right.
Posit's building an ecosystem,
Gotcha.
whereas Anaconda is giving you this ready-to-go powerhouse.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So they're both trying to make life easier,
Exactly.
just in slightly different ways.
Yeah, precisely. They both support Python development.
Okay.
They both integrate with the IDEs that you're probably already familiar with, like
Right.
Jupyter and VS Code.
Yeah, for sure.
But what's particularly interesting is Posit's new IDE, Positron,
Okay.
which is designed from the ground up to work seamlessly with both R and Python.
Oh, wow.
So it looks like they're aiming for truly a unified coding experience
So cool.
if you happen to use both languages.
Okay, you mentioned dependencies before.
Yeah.
I feel like for anyone who's had a project break
Right.
because of like a library conflict, they know the pain.
Yeah, it's the worst.
So in like simple terms, what are we talking about with dependencies?
I love how you put that.
Thanks.
Okay, imagine your Python code relies on other bits of pre-written code.
Okay.
These are your libraries or your packages.
Right.
Now, dependencies are simply these required pieces.
Okay.
But the challenge is
Mhm.
different projects might need different versions of the same package.
Uh-huh.
And if those versions clash, your code can break.
Right.
So that's why managing these dependencies effectively
Yeah.
is so crucial in data science.
Okay, totally makes sense. And that brings us to package management.
Yes.
It sounds like both Posit and Anaconda have their own approaches here.
They do, yeah. Posit offers Posit Package Manager, which handles both Python and R packages.
Okay.
But a key feature here is its ability for organizations to create their own private repositories.
Mm-hmm.
This gives them so much more control over which software versions their teams are using,
Right.
which is vital for reproducible research and deployment.
Gotcha.
Now, Anaconda is famous for Conda,
Okay.
which is its package and environment manager.
Mm-hmm.
Conda is particularly strong when it comes to managing complex dependencies,
Mm-hmm.
even those that involve software components beyond just Python.
Okay. That's really helpful.
Yeah.
What about keeping individual projects isolated?
Yeah,
This is something I always struggle with.
I ate it.
Making sure one project's libraries
Oh, yeah.
don't mess up another.
Both provide ways to create isolated environments,
Okay.
which is essential for managing those project-specific dependencies.
Okay.
So Anaconda has this capability built right in, allowing you to create separate containers for each project
Mm-hmm.
with its own set of libraries.
All right.
While the sources don't detail a specific Posit-branded tool solely for Python environment isolation. Posit Workbench is designed to integrate with standard Python tools like venv,
Okay.
and it can even work with Conda itself.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So the core principle is the same.
Exactly.
Okay, so both platforms are really thinking about that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. For someone just starting out
Yeah.
or maybe on a tight budget,
Mhm.
what's the initial cost?
They both offer very accessible entry points.
Okay.
Posit has free cloud-based offerings
Okay.
and a public Posit package manager,
Mhm.
allowing you to start exploring their tools without a financial commitment.
Cool.
Anaconda offers its free individual edition,
Yep.
which includes the core Anaconda distribution
Right.
with a vast number of packages
Wow.
and even free training resources.
That's awesome.
So you can definitely get started with either platform without needing to invest upfront.
That's great to hear. Okay, so we're seeing some fundamental similarities here. Now let's talk about when you might specifically choose Posit.
Okay.
What are the scenarios where it really shines?
Yeah. So if you're part of an organization where teams are actively working with both R and Python, Posit becomes a really compelling option.
Okay.
Yeah. Their enterprise-level products are specifically architected to support this kind of unified infrastructure.
Gotcha.
Think of it as a central platform that speaks both languages fluently.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So Hadley Wickham, like a leading figure in the R community.
Yeah.
Now with Posit, has been a strong advocate for this cross-language approach within their professional tools.
Absolutely.
So having one platform for both R and Python sounds great.
Yeah.
But are there any downsides to splitting focus like that?
Right.
Could one language potentially get?
Yeah, that's a valid question.
Yeah.
While Posit's historical roots are in R,
Sure.
their recent rebranding and significant investments in Python support really suggest a genuine commitment to both languages.
Okay.
Their new Positron IDE is a strong indicator of this dual focus. While the balance of features might evolve over time, their stated goal is to provide first-class support for both.
Okay, that's reassuring.
Yeah.
What other scenarios would favor Posit?
So if your team is heavily involved in creating and sharing dynamic data insights and interactive web applications using Python frameworks like Shiny for Python, but also other popular tools like Streamlit, Dash, and Flask, Posit Connect is specifically designed to streamline that deployment process.
Okay.
Yeah, they really emphasize their ability to handle these kinds of interactive outputs.
Makes sense.
Plus, Shiny for Python itself is a significant advantage if you want to build web apps using nothing but Python.
Okay, so it sounds like if you're focused on building those interactive dashboards, web-based data tools in Python, Posit seems to have a clear advantage in terms of deployment.
Exactly. And if you value a consistent integrated development environment across both R and Python, Posit delivers here as well.
Okay. So Posit Workbench can support RStudio, Jupyter, and VS Code.
Gotcha.
And their new IDE Positron sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
It's built on the foundation of VS Code.
Okay.
But with native deep support for both languages.
Yeah.
Aiming to give you the best of both worlds in a single coding environment.
A unified IDE for both. That's intriguing.
Right.
What specific pain points do you think a multi-language IDE like that aims to solve for someone who regularly switches between R and Python?
Think about the context switching.
Okay.
If you're moving between RStudio and a Python-focused IDE,
there
can be subtle differences in keyboard shortcuts, project organization, and even the way you interact with the debugger.
Yeah, totally.
So a unified IDE like Positron aims to minimize this friction.
Makes sense.
Allowing you to stay in a familiar environment regardless of the language you're working in.
Right.
This can lead to increased efficiency and a smoother workflow.
It's like reducing that mental overhead.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool. What about reproducibility? Yeah. This is obviously so critical in data science, especially in collaborative settings. So where does that come in?
So Posit Package Manager is key here.
Okay.
It allows organizations to establish centralized repositories for both Python and R packages. This means you can have private mirrors of public repositories, ensuring that everyone on your team is using the exact same versions of software.
Yeah.
You can also host internal packages within this system.
Wow.
So this level of control over the software supply chain is essential for ensuring that your analyses are reproducible and that everyone is working with vetted and approved software.
That sounds crucial for larger organizations.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with strict compliance requirements.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. And finally, if you or your organization have a strong commitment to open source principles, how does Posit kind of fit into that?
So Posit aligns really well with that ethos.
Their core mission revolves around creating and supporting open source software for data science.
Gotcha.
And they are actively involved in numerous key open source projects.
Right.
The prominent involvement of figures like Hadley Wickham further reinforces this commitment.
Cool. Okay, so Posit seems like a strong contender for teams, especially those juggling both R and Python, with a significant focus on simplifying deployment.
Right.
And a deep commitment to the open source world.
Absolutely.
Okay, now let's look at Anaconda.
Okay.
When would Anaconda be the preferred choice?
For individual data scientists
Okay.
or smaller teams that need to get a comprehensive Python environment up and running quickly,
Yeah.
Anaconda is often the go-to solution.
Okay.
It comes with a vast collection of essential data science libraries pre-installed.
Right.
That batteries included approach can be a real time saver when you're starting a new project.
I remember that feeling when I first started.
I know, right?
Like just wanting everything I needed in one place
Totally.
without having to figure out each installation.
Exactly. And if you're working on projects with particularly intricate dependencies, perhaps involving non-Python components, or requiring very specific versions of numerous packages, Anaconda's Conda Package Manager is widely recognized for its ability to handle those complex scenarios effectively.
So for those projects where dependency management feels like a constant battle,
it's the worst.
Conda can be a real lifesaver.
Absolutely. Yeah, precisely.
Okay.
And for users who prefer a graphical user interface for managing their environments, packages, and applications, Anaconda Navigator provides that visual tool.
Okay.
Yeah, it can be particularly helpful for those who are newer to the command line.
Right.
Or simply prefer a more visual way to interact with their data science setup.
A GUI can definitely make things less intimidating.
Totally.
Especially for those just starting their Python journey.
Absolutely. And speaking of newcomers, Anaconda is really popular in educational settings.
Oh, okay.
And is often recommended for individuals who are just beginning their exploration of Python and data science. The ease of initial setup allows learners to focus on the fundamental concepts rather than getting bogged down in installation complexities.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What about situations where you might not have?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, like a reliable internet connection.
That's another area where Anaconda excels.
Okay.
It's because the distribution includes such a large number of packages locally.
Right.
It allows for offline package installations from its local repository.
So if you're working in a remote location or have strict network limitations, Anaconda has you covered.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now let's talk about the specific advantages of Anaconda over Posit.
Yeah.
What makes it stand out?
The sheer size of its ecosystem
Okay.
and the extensive collection of pre-installed packages is a major advantage. Anaconda comes with over 300 packages right out of the box.
Wow.
Giving you immediate access to a vast range of data science tools.
That's a significant head start.
It is.
So if you're just starting a project and need a broad set of tools immediately, Anaconda has the edge.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And as we've discussed, the Conda Package and Environment Manager is a key differentiator.
Right.
Its robustness in handling complex multi-language dependencies and ensuring project reproducibility is a significant strength.
Okay. And the user-friendly GUI Anaconda Navigator.
Yes, that's another clear advantage.
Okay.
Making environment and package management more accessible to a wider range of users.
Gotcha.
Plus, Anaconda has been a prominent player in the Python data science world for a longer period, resulting in a very large and active community.
Yeah.
This means you'll find a wealth of online resources, tutorials, and community support if you encounter any issues.
Community support can be invaluable.
Oh, the best.
When you're like facing a coding roadblock.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. And Anaconda offers seamless cross-platform compatibility across Windows, Mac OS, and Linux.
It does.
Ensuring a consistent experience regardless of your operating system.
Yeah.
And finally, it integrates really well with a wide array of popular data science tools and IDEs.
It does.
Including Jupyter Notebook.
Yeah.
And its own included Spider IDE.
That's right.
Okay, so Anaconda provides a very comprehensive, user-friendly experience with strong community backing and excellent dependency management.
Absolutely.
Now, what gives Posit the edge over Anaconda?
So Posit's strong commitment to open source
Okay.
and its deep engagement with the open source community is a key differentiator. For those who value and contribute to open source software, their focus extends beyond just providing tools.
Okay.
They actively participate in and support many important open source projects.
Okay. That aligns with their rebranding.
It does.
And broader mission to support the entire open source data science ecosystem, right?
Exactly.
Okay. And their seamless integration of R and Python workflows
Yeah.
is a major advantage for teams that utilize both languages.
It is.
Their tools are designed from the ground up to treat both languages.
Right? As equally important.
Yeah.
Facilitating collaboration and shared projects.
Yeah, that unified approach must significantly streamline workflows.
Oh, yeah.
For teams working across both R and Python.
It can lead to considerable efficiency gains. Absolutely.
Okay, and Posit's enterprise-focused solutions are specifically designed to address the needs of larger organizations.
They are.
Providing centralized management, security features, and tools tailored for team collaboration and governance.
That's right.
So for scalability, control, and collaborative features in larger enterprise environments, Posit offers tailored solutions.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're innovative tools for deploying data science outputs, particularly shiny for Python, offer a very user-friendly way to create interactive web applications using pure Python code.
Absolutely.
And furthermore, some users have reported potentially smoother integration with existing IT infrastructure and deployment pipelines with Posit, along with potentially more responsive service and support.
Okay.
Although individual experiences can vary.
For sure.
Yeah. But that ease of integration can be a critical factor when deploying data science solutions.
It can. It really can.
Within a larger organizational context.
Absolutely.
And finally, Posit Package Manager provides a secure and scalable way to manage both Python and R packages within an organization.
Right.
Offering granular control over versioning and access.
It does.
Which is paramount for security, compliance, and reproducibility in enterprise settings. Okay, so Posit's key advantages seem to lie in its cross-language capabilities.
Yeah.
Its focus on enterprise-level solutions and its innovative deployment tools.
Absolutely.
Particularly for interactive web applications.
Right.
Now let's consider the potential downsides of solely relying on Posit in a Python data science environment.
Okay.
One potential consideration is that Posit might have a smaller initial collection of pre-built Python packages compared to Anaconda.
Right.
So while it fully supports Python and you can install any necessary packages, you might find yourself needing to manually install more libraries. Right after installation compared to Anaconda's like more comprehensive initial offering.
Yeah.
So for pure Python users, it might be a bit more of a like build your own experience initially in terms of package selection.
To some extent, yes.
Okay. Also, Posit doesn't inherently include conda as its primary package and environment manager.
Right.
While you can certainly install and use conda within a Posit environment, it's not part of the core Posit ecosystem.
Right.
So for users who have a strong preference for or rely heavily on conda's specific features and strengths, this might be a factor to consider.
It could be,
especially for those complex dependency scenarios.
Totally.
Where conda really shines.
Exactly.
And given Posit's history and deep roots in the R community, the primary community support and resources might still lean slightly towards R.
That's possible.
Although their Python support is rapidly growing and maturing.
Yeah.
Python users might find a slightly less extensive or mature, dedicated Python support ecosystem.
Right.
Compared to Anaconda's well-established Python community.
Yeah.
So while Posit's Python support is increasing, the breadth and depth of the dedicated Python community might still be evolving.
Possibly.
Additionally, while Posit offers free versions and cloud-based options, many of their advanced enterprise-grade features require commercial licenses. While Anaconda also has commercial offerings now, its base distribution remains free for a wide range of individual and even some commercial use cases.
Right.
So the cost structure and the need for commercial licenses for certain features might be a consideration.
Yeah.
Depending on the scale and needs of your work.
It could be.
And finally, while Posit is actively investing in Python support, its full-fledged integration and feature set for Python are relatively newer compared to Anaconda's long history.
Right.
Specifically within the Python data science space.
Yeah.
So some aspects of their Python ecosystem might still be in a more evolutionary phase.
That makes sense.
Yeah, given their origins and their more recent expansion into comprehensive Python support.
For sure.
Okay, so to quickly recap the key differences, we've looked at package and environment management, IDE integration, the number of pre-installed packages, support for R, enterprise features,
Yeah.
community support, ease of initial use,
Right.
and deployment capabilities.
Exactly.
And based on various scenarios.
Yeah.
We've also touched on recommendations for individual learning,
Yep.
mixed language teams, complex dependencies,
Yep.
enterprise needs, web app deployment, offline work,
Right.
GUI preference,
Yeah.
and a commitment to open source.
That's a concise and accurate overview
Yeah.
of the key distinctions and when each platform might be the preferred choice.
So it really boils down to carefully considering your specific needs,
It does.
your team's composition and skills,
Yep.
and the types of projects you're working on.
Absolutely.
There's no universally best solution.
Right.
It's about finding the best fit for your particular context.
Precisely, both are powerful and valuable tools
Totally.
in the data science landscape, but they cater to slightly different priorities and workflows.
Okay, so let's bring this deep dive to a close.
Okay.
The key takeaways are that Anaconda offers a very comprehensive and user-friendly starting point for Python data science, with particularly strong dependency management
Right.
and a large supportive community.
Absolutely.
Posit provides a more unified platform that shines, especially if you're working with both R and Python. And it offers robust enterprise solutions for collaboration and deployment, all underpinned by a strong commitment to open source.
That's a succinct and accurate summary of the core strengths of each platform. They both play crucial roles in the Python data science ecosystem.
Totally. And now for a final thought to ponder.
Okay.
Given the increasing trend of data science teams embracing multiple programming languages and the growing importance of deploying interactive data products for wider consumption, how might the distinct strengths of both Anaconda and Posit be strategically combined or leveraged in a complementary fashion within your own workflow or across your organization? What specific challenges or bottlenecks in your current data science practices could either of these platforms uniquely address or help you overcome?
Right.
It's definitely something worth considering.
It is.
As you continue your data science journey.
Absolutely.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.
Thanks for having me.